Overnight, a massive tornado barreling through the rural city of Enid, almost 70 miles north of Oklahoma City.
It was weird. You could feel the tornado. You could feel it in your chest. It was a rumble that, I'm never going to forget this because, when they say it sounds kind of like a freight train, that's true.
It's kind of a nightmare right at the moment.
The footage that I'm about to show you was really breaking my heart when I saw it for the first time because it's absolutely horrifying. Hi everyone, tornadoes are wreaking havoc again in the US, and I want to show you what happened in Oklahoma with in Enid. A tornado was hitting that town and the destruction is really bad. So I'm going to show you that monster of a tornado, but I'm also going to show you the damage. And it was an EF4 tornado, while there's reports that it was even an EF5 tornado, really like the highest on the scale, because the damage looks so extreme. But officially right now, I want to say that the Enid tornado is rated EF4, which is really bad already. We've seen homes destroyed and blown away from an EF2 tornado. So preliminary EF4 right now, with estimated winds around 170 to 175 miles per hour. That's 274 to 282 kilometers per hour. Could it still be upgraded? Technically, yes, because tornado ratings can change after deeper damage surveys, but you should not call it an EF5 right now until the National Weather Service will upgrade it. Reporting right now says from the NWS survey rated it EF4, and that's why we will stick with this in this video. And if you could do me a favor, since we're right into it, please give it a like and hype it. Doesn't cost you anything, but it helps my channel. Thank you so much. So violent tornado just tore through Enid, Oklahoma, and not a weak spin, not a short-lived funnel. We have to talk about this, what it did and how long, what the stretch was. So it carved a damaged path of about 9 miles. That's 14.5 kilometers. And at its widest, that's also important, it was roughly 500 yards. That's half a kilometer. This is huge. And I just can't imagine what people go through that were in the path of this tornado when you see what happened to your home. And for me, if you have animals, it's even worse, because where do you put large animals? You can't take them in a storm shelter. So my heart goes out to everyone who lives in tornado prone areas. I don't know how you do it. I have the utmost respect for you, and I hope and pray for your safety, because this year has already been very bad with tornadoes in areas and states where you wouldn't think that they would have that many, right? But really, almost half a kilometer wide, and it also hit near the Vance Air Force Base. It has crossed parts of the Enid area, and it has damaged around 40 homes, has injured at least 10 people. But the most shocking part is this, and not shocking in a positive way, I have to say. Early reports said no fatalities, and for an EF4 tornado, I want to make that clear, that is almost unbelievable. So I hope, guys, let's keep our fingers crossed that this is the final verdict, no fatalities, because EF4 is in a violent category. Absolutely freaks me out. I once saw a horse ranch in North Carolina blown away by an EF3, and I'm talking about a steel indoor riding arena that was completely gone. House destroyed, barns destroyed. It was horrible. So EF4 is even more frightening. This type of tornado definitely tears homes apart, collapses walls, strips trees, throws vehicles around, and really can turn, and that's another danger factor, ordinary debris into weapons if you're standing around unsheltered. And Enid in Oklahoma, it's not a tiny dot on the map. This is a city of around 50,000 people in north central Oklahoma, right basically in that part of the United States where these spring storms can become monsters. Basically when the conditions are right, when the atmosphere lines up the wrong way, we have to say. So that specific tornado developed during a severe weather outbreak across the Central Plains. We had multiple tornadoes that were reported across the region, and that Enid storm became one of the most destructive. The tornado started south of Enid around 8:13 p.m. and then it moved to Vance Air Force Base and Highway 81, and by about just 8:25 p.m. the situation was serious enough for a tornado emergency. And that wording really, really matters, because a tornado warning means a tornado is possible or already indicated. A tornado emergency means a confirmed destructive tornado is threatening lives right now. This is what you need to know. That's the moment where you do not look outside. You do not stand by the window. You do not try to drive away. You get underground or into the strongest interior shelter that you have immediately. And in Enid, that quick decision may be why right now we have a 0 loss rate of people. So the damage survey that is out right now shows us why the tornado was rated EF4. So the National Weather Service uses the enhanced Fujita scale, this is how it's called, which estimates wind speed based on damage. So EF0 is weak, EF1 is moderate, EF2 is significant. I've seen bad stuff with EF2, and EF3 is severe. Yes, it is. EF4 is violent, and EF5 is the top level. This is like doomsday scenario. So EF4 damage means winds between 166 and 200 miles per hour. That's 267 to 322 kilometers per hour. So the Enid tornado that we have rated at 170 to 175 miles per hour was, if we look at that, on the lower end of the EF4 scale, but lower end EF4 is like still catastrophic, as the images show us. And at that speed, I want to make that clear, the wind is not just pushing against the buildings, it's ripping them open. And once it has access into the building, right, it lifts up everything and destroys it. Roofs can be removed, exterior walls can fail, trees can be debarked, power poles can snap, cars and large objects can be moved, and anything picked up by the wind becomes part of the tornado. Can you build better to protect yourself against a tornado? Yes. The wood homes, not really ideal, right? Once the roof's gone, once a window is cracked, but concrete homes is the better option. We have brick homes. If brick homes, they might still lose the roof, but you don't see that complete devastation, right? But the only structure that can really protect you, that doesn't get much damage, I have done a lot of investigation into this, is if you build a concrete dome structure. But do you want to, like in an Arctic style igloo dome, right? And the cost to build that. So you have to weigh in. Certainly, I think maybe find a way to help people to rebuild stronger, safer, right? But I know it's not that easy because it costs a lot of money. But problem is, this kind of tornado can move cars and large objects, and basically anything that's picked up by the wind becomes part of the tornado, inside the tornado. And that's why tornado damage often looks like it's like an explosion, but it's not an explosion. It's rotating wind, it's pressure changes and debris impacts from hitting structures from different directions in seconds. So problem also, this tornado struck late. It struck at night, which makes everything more dangerous, right? So at that time, people were probably not asleep yet, but maybe you cannot clearly see the funnel, although there was still light outside, as it seems. But if you have rain and darkness, that can hide the circulation of these tornadoes. I've been through this when I was in Nebraska, and there was tornado warning, and it was like lightning and storm and rain everywhere. I was still on the highway, and you get these radio alerts, and I'm like, what am I going to do? They say, go into the basement. I'm like, I'm far away from any basement where I could go. And I knew, I have the maps and the alerts. I knew there were tornadoes around me. It was absolutely frightening because you cannot see where they're going. And then I had the same situation again near in Louisiana, near Shreveport. This was also absolutely frightening. So I still remember that. It's not a good feeling. So that's why my heart goes out to you guys if you're in these areas. So warnings. The warnings matter so much in Oklahoma, but also in other states, right? People in the tornado alley have lived with this threat for generations, but that does not make an EF4 normal, not at all. This is still, we have to say, a rare, violent tornado. And when that one crosses near populated areas, near homes, roads, and Air Force Base, the situation has become extremely serious very quickly. Vance Air Force Base was affected by the storm. What we hear from their reports of damage and disruptions from power and water problems, no injuries, right? That's the good thing. Outside the base, the worst hit neighborhoods saw homes badly damaged or destroyed. Emergency crews had to go through the area. They had to check collapsed structures, clear roads, and make sure people were accounted for. And that's the part many people do not see after the tornado passes, right? The radar signature disappears, warning expires. But for the people on the ground, the disaster is just the beginning of a long period of uncertainty and heartbreak. So we also drowned power lines, broken gas lines, nails, glass, twisted metal, unstable walls, blocked roads. Family are looking for pets. This is also heartbreaking. Medicine that they lost, that they need, documents, vehicles, searching for their neighbors and family members. Some people walk out with their lives, but really almost nothing else. And this is why if we hear nobody was lost, does not mean this was a small event. Really, really not. It means the community got lucky in that way and prepared people made the right decisions fast. Now, technically, what has created this? This was a classic plains severe weather setup. So what we need is to make this happen, we need warm, humid air near the ground, and then you need a cooler air higher up. And that creates an instability which lets thunderstorms grow tall and unfortunately so powerful. And then of course you need wind shear, winds changing speed and direction with height. That shear is what gives a storm the rotation. But this was a supercell thunderstorm. It can take that horizontal spin in the atmosphere, tilt it upwards, stretch it, tighten it, and under the right conditions that we had here, unfortunately, bring that rotation all the way down to the ground. This is when you get a tornado. In this case, the storm that was happening there had enough instability, enough shear, and enough low-level rotation to produce this violent tornado, not just this like a brief funnel, a brief touchdown, but this damaging EF4. And the path that we see, the path of destruction, is confirming that story. 9 miles, 14.5 kilometers on the ground, up to 500 yards, half a kilometer, and the strong winds, right? That is a serious tornado by every measure. And because this was part of a larger severe weather pattern, the danger did not end with Enid. We had additional severe storms that were expected across parts of the central United States with more tornadoes, large hail, and damaging winds possible. So what can I say? Panic is probably not the answer, but readiness and then acting fast. If you are under a tornado watch, that means ingredients are in place. If you are under a tornado warning, that means act now. And if you are under tornado emergency, that means the worst case scenario is already unfolding. I can't say it often enough. There's tornado warning apps. There are severe weather apps. There's earthquakes warning apps. Guys, install these apps. even if you do not live in areas that have tornadoes, but you might be traveling, and then it's great if the app alerts you. You can also fine tune it. You say, only tell me if there's an earthquake larger than 4.5 or whatever, right? You know what I mean. So I hope you found that interesting, but there's so much more going on. So I hope to see you in a second in this other video that I have put here in the end screen. And if you want to support the channel and fill me up with coffee, link is in the description. If you want to support the channel as a channel family member, click the join button for a community, and I'm showing you behind the scene videos of my private life and what's going on there. So thanks, hello members. Thanks to everyone who's doing that. And thank you for your supers and your ongoing support. Thank you, thank you. And hey, jump over here, click it, and I see you there. Bye-bye.